Good morning, grade 11 students. Today is week 5 and we are going to discuss another type of academic text, which is writing a reaction paper, a review paper, and a critic paper. Okay, so before we proceed with our lesson for today, I would like to discuss to you the following objectives of this lesson. So the first objective is you have to define the purpose of a reaction paper, review, and a critic paper. So they have various purposes, okay? They have various purposes in which they are being distinguished from one another. Number 2 is use appropriate critical approaches in writing a critic, such as formalism and feminism. So I know that you have been writing reaction paper and review papers or critic papers because your teachers must have or might have required you to write one before. Okay, but today we are going to apply a different approach on how to review or on how to critically review things and ideas. Number 3 is that you have to write an objective review or critic of a work of art, an event, or a program. What do we mean by objective? Objective means that you have to depend on facts. Okay, you do not. You just don't. You just don't rely on your personal opinion, on your personal biases. But of course, you have to base your opinions or your views on facts. Okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that when you review or write a critic paper, it is solely based on facts. Okay, there are also personal opinions there. However, these personal opinions are also based on facts. Okay. All right. So let us start. So what is the importance of being critical? So this lesson focuses on writing a reaction, a review, and a critic paper. So on how they are being structured and how they are being distinguished from one another. So to begin the lesson, we have to consider the following scenarios. So we proceed on page 32. So I'm going to read it for you. Trinia had to write a reaction paper on the article that they have just read in class. Zach watched a movie and write a long post on his Facebook account to say he liked it while analyzing the movie using feminine perspective. Ina is an art critic and she attended an art exhibition at the Ayala Museum, after which she wrote a review on her blog about one of the paintings that caught her attention, and etc. and etc. Okay, now, what is the common theme among the scenarios? The common theme that we can find in the following scenarios is that they are evaluating, okay? They are evaluating the places, the things that they have witnessed or encountered. They are making a review, okay? They are making an honest review, or they are expressing their personal opinions toward that thing that they have encountered. Okay, so that is common among the following scenarios that we have read here. So I want you to finish the scenario yourself. Okay, now that is the common thing that they are doing in these scenarios. You also have watched on YouTube, or I know that you are watching on YouTube different reviews. Okay, for example, you are watching the latest smartphones, right? You are watching the latest reviews on smartphones. That is an example of a review. However, the only difference is that it is being spoken and not written. Okay, that is an example of a review. Another one is reaction. Okay, reaction in which the vloggers there express their personal biases or opinions on that certain idea or that certain product that they are giving reaction upon. Okay, so if you can observe, when, for example, in a smartphone, right, when you watch on YouTube on different vloggers, they present the different specs of that certain smartphone. Okay, they present the specs or the specifications of the smartphone, that is facts, and afterwards they present their personal opinions, and that is their personal biases. However, they still control their ideas to not make it very biased or opinionated. Okay? So that is how they review things. This is also what we are going to do in our writing. So, let's now distinguish the difference between the three. A reaction paper here is said to be at the elementary level. Okay, so if you are just going to make reaction, what did you do at the party? Wait, it was nice. Okay, there are a lot of food. There are plenty of food. Okay, what did you observe when you went to Jollibee? Yan. The food was nice. The food was delicious. Okay, that is an example of a reaction paper. Okay, that is purely based on your personal opinion and biases. Because yun nga, sinasabi natin reaction. Okay, it comes from your inside. It comes from your own thoughts and feelings. Kaya tinawag natin siyang reaction. Now, in doing a reaction paper, here are some of the questions that you need to ask. What is the main topic of the reading material or item that I will be reacting to? What are its strengths and weaknesses? Do I agree with the points, arguments, and claims of the writer? What are my reactions toward the content? So if you can observe here, class, if you are making a reaction video or if you are making a reaction paper, the source of your ideas is solely based on your own personal thoughts and feelings. Okay, you are going to define or you are going to find the strengths and weaknesses. Ano yung mga magagandang bagay tungkol sa kanya? Ano yung mga pangit na bagay tungkol sa kanya? What is it all about? Okay, what are your points? Do you agree with it? Do you agree that the food in Jollibee is delicious? Okay, or not? What are your arguments? What are your claims? Okay, what is your stand toward that thing? Yan. So that is an example of a reaction paper. You are solely basing your reactions or your opinions on your own feelings and thoughts. Number 2 is the review paper. Now, the review paper here has a higher critical, requires a higher critical thinking rather than in a reaction paper. Why? Because in a review paper, you have to get some facts, okay? You have to control or you have to, what do we call this one? We have to control the facts over our own personal opinions, okay? So we have to balance facts with our personal opinions. That's why when you are watching different reviews on YouTube, they present the facts first and then afterwards they present their own personal opinions regarding that product that they are featuring in that certain video, okay? So that same with when we are writing, okay? When we are writing, we also have to find those facts and then we have to balance it with our personal biases. So that is what we call review. Now, in doing a review paper, here are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself. What is the main topic of the reading material or item that I will be reviewing? What are its strengths and weaknesses? What are my opinions about these strengths and weaknesses? Okay, so those are what you are going to consider. Now, number 3 is what we call the critic paper. The critic paper is said to be the most academic among the 3. It can be used in the senior high school, in college, or even in graduate school. It is intellectual in discourse, just a few personal opinions, and most of it are based on facts, supported by sources. Okay, so it is not just based on facts, but it is also supported by sources. Okay, which means that the idea or the information that they give is solely based on proven theories or proven studies of other people. Okay, now critic paper can also be scientific. It can be based on scientific basis or experiments. Okay, that is what we call the critic paper. So going back to activity, a critic paper displays the writer's ability to evaluate and pass sound and critical judgment on the issue or matter at hand. Okay, so when you are writing a critic paper, you are acting like a judge because you are balancing things. Okay, you are having a critical judgment on things. You do not just base on facts, but you need to review the facts if these facts have relevant or significant sources or reliable sources. Okay, now that is what we do in critical writing. Now, going back, as I have said earlier, if you are just eliciting your prior knowledge, as elementary student, you would be probably asked to merely react to it. That's what we call the reaction paper. In the higher grade level, you are required to have your reactions to the next level and review the movie or the thing by balancing your personal opinions with other facts. That is review writing. Now, the third one is that you are required to write a critic paper. If you are writing a critic paper, you are not only writing your reactions and other facts about the movie. You may also integrate the following on page 34. Another work art such as a song or a painting, another movie by the same director, another movie by the same genre but different, directed by different director and with another cast, another movie by the same actor and actresses comparing their roles. So, as you can observe here, if you are writing a critic paper, you are not just relying on one product, okay? You are not just relying on one thing that you are going to review. You have to compare that thing. Or for example, it's a movie or a song or a painting. Now, you have to compare the thing that you are reviewing to other things, to other similar sort, okay? Now, you have to compare so that you may see the differences, you may see the how it works, okay? How it works individually, and that you may judge them critically, all right? Now, after discussing the different types of writing, we also have here the different approaches on how we are going to write a critic paper. Now, approaches are not being applied when you were writing before because these were not taught before because these are critical approaches. That's why we are learning these critical approaches for you to have an idea or a different view on how you are going to write your critic papers. Okay? There are various ways or standpoints in which you can analyze and critique a certain material. You can critique a material based on its technical aspects, its approach to gender, your reaction as the audience, through its portrayal or class struggle and social structure. So there are many academic texts there that we can evaluate. Is that academic text biased against a gender? Is that biased against is that biased against the poor people? Ayan, parang ganyan siya. Okay, so we move on so that you may understand what I am saying. So first, we have here the Formalist Perspective, page 34. Turn your modules on page 34. When we are talking about Formalist Perspective, we are critiquing the text according to the physical structure of the text. This approach regards literature as a unique form of human knowledge that needs to be examined on its own terms. All the elements necessary for understanding the work are contained within the work itself. Of particular interest to the formalist critic are the elements of form, style, structure, tone, and imagery that are found within the text. Now, if you are a formalist critic, you would focus on the physical structure of the text, which means that you are going to understand the form, how is it written, okay, the style, what techniques did the author use, is it effective enough to relay his message to his audiences, okay, the structure, the tone, is the tone of the author pleasing to the audiences, are imageries used properly? Ayan, what are the different imageries? The sense of, what are the different imageries? Hearing, sight, touch, taste, and what do you call this other one? Tactile, ano ba yun? Okay, basta yun. So those are examples of imageries. Do the imageries help in letting the author experience or letting the audience experience what they are reading. Okay? Do they feel what they are reading? Do they touch? Do they smell? Do they taste what they are reading? Okay. So that is what we are going to evaluate when we are formalist critics. Okay. What is the form? Now, kapag formalist critic ka, you are kikilatisin mo yung form. Was the grammar correct? Okay. Is subject-verb agreement being applied properly? Okay. Are the elements complete? Okay, is it complete from the introduction to the denoma? Ayan. So, how is it structured? How is it toned? Okay. How is the work's structure unified? How do various elements of the work reinforce its meaning? What recurring patterns or repeated or related words, images can you find? What is the effect of these patterns or motifs? How does repetition reinforce the theme? Okay. How does a writer's diction reveal or reflect the work's meaning? So, if you are a formalist critic, you also look into the diction that is being used by the authors. Okay, the diction or the choice of words that is used or that are used by the authors. Now, if you would look into the choice of words, do these choices of words help in the revelation of meaning to the readers or the audiences? What figures of speech are used? Okay, meron bang nagamit na figures of speech? Note the writer's use of paradox, irony, symbol plot, characterization, and style of narration. Do these help in letting the readers understand the meaning of the story or the literary text? Ayan. So, ganon. No? If you are a formalist critic. Now, following are the common aspects looked into formalism author's techniques in resolving contradictions, central passage that sums up the entirety of the work, contribution of parts in the work as a whole to its aesthetic quality. Now, if you are looking into form, you would also look into how is it being arranged or how is it organized. Is it organized enough? Do the small details reflect the big details of the literary piece or the story? Okay. Does the narration help in the realization of the central theme of the story? Ayan. So those are what you are going to consider when you are a formalist critic. Okay. An example of a formalist approach here is A Rose for Emily. Now, you are going, it is being given here as a sample. So I would like you to read this one. So I just want to highlight some things that are being highlighted here. Using a formalist approach to critiquing this story gave me a different way of reading A Rose for Emily. I went into this reading piece with the decision already made that I would use a formalist approach. So the reviewer here or the writer here is using a formalist approach in order to review the story of A Rose for Emily. So, the first thing that he has or that she has witnessed here is the use of the point of view. So according to her, A Rose for Emily is written in the first person point of view or as a member of a community, okay? Rather than the third person narrative. Ayan, so napansin niya na first person point of view yung ginamit because maybe the author here in the story wants to say that he himself has experienced or he himself has witnessed the story. So ganon. The second thing that the critic writer here has witnessed is the use of imagery. Okay? It gives off a setting in the Old South, which words such as tradition, generation, sort of hereditary obligation, and etc. Another one that he has witnessed is the use of plot. Okay, according to him or according to her, it jumps back and forth in non-chronological order. So this is what we are going to determine when we are in the formalist perspective. Okay? We determine the plot. How is it being organized? Is it organized from the beginning to the end, or is it non-chronological? Pag sinabi natin non-chronological, it is not arranged into order. So, the reviewer here, or the critic writer here, has noticed that the story A Rose for Emily jumps back and forth in non-chronological order. Now, this method of storytelling delivers an immense element of surprise at the end of the story. So what is good in a non-chronological order of writing? Okay. Now, it delivers an immense element of surprise. So, hindi mo ine-expect yung mga pwedeng mangyari because it is not arranged in a non-chronological order. So, it is not taken negatively but is taken positively. Okay. Another one approach is the feminist criticism or feminism. Okay? Now, speaking of feminism, the root word feminine, it talks about women empowerment. Now, there are literary pieces that are expressed in favor of men. Therefore, there is a need to as a literary critic, you have to distinguish or evaluate how the authors write their literary pieces. Now, as a feminist critic, you have to consider the following. This focuses on how literature presents women as subject of socio-political, psychological, and economic oppression. It also reveals how aspects of our culture are patriarchal, how our culture views men as superior and women as inferior. Now, if you are reviewing a literary piece, there are a lot of literary pieces that talks about women as being inferior and men as superior. Okay, so as a literary critic, you have to break that boundaries between men and women. Okay, now, let us find out here on page 36 a sample feminist critic of the Dead Stars. So yung Dead Stars yung nireview niya dito. What is all about the Dead Stars? Okay. How is women being unempowered in the story of the Dead Stars? So I'm just going to highlight some things. Dead Stars already clearly illustrates the gender roles ingrained in Filipino society. Don Julian and the judge are portrayed as the main leaders of the household. Okay, pag sinabing Don Julian, syempre, lalaki yan. Taking up lofty professions such as business and law, while the women are portrayed accomplishing domestic tasks such as tending to children and preparing food. So this is how the review or the critic writer reviewed the literary piece. He already have observed the oppression to women. With Don Julian and the judges, of course, the society here is said to be male-dominated. So this is how you are going to critique using the feminist perspective. Now, this implies that women here, like Julia, are only an object of affection and not as a woman. This gender imbalance leads to a tragic epiphany for the characters. Okay. So, in this sample critic here, in this sample critic of the feminist perspective, you are not going to put your personal bias, okay? You just have to put your own observation about the literary piece that you have read, okay? You do not have to defend your stand against or pro to that matter. Now, the third one is the reader response criticism. When we say reader response criticism, we or you as the writer has the right or has your own interpretation, or you as a reader has your own interpretation of the text that is being read rather than considering the interpretation of the author himself. Okay? So, ikaw ang gumagawa ng sarili mong meaning doon sa binabasa mong literary piece and not the meaning that comes from the author himself or herself. Now, this approach claims that the reader's role cannot be separated from understanding of the work. The text does not have meaning until the reader reads it and interprets it. Okay, the text does not have a meaning unless we read it. Okay, because we are the ones that are going to we are the ones who are going to make meaning out of the text. So that is what we call the reader response criticism. We have to read a sample critic here. Despite being limited in length, Dead Stars manages to evoke various feelings which ultimately build up the ending. While Alfredo is the center of the story as a woman reader, it is hard to feel greatly for Esperanza. So if you can observe here, the reader himself is expressing his or her own personal opinion or understanding of the story. So it is not just the understanding, but he or she is what do we call this one? Assuming things. Yeah. He is putting things in his own perspective and understanding according to his own analysis of the story. So that is what we call the reader response. You are free to interpret what is going on in the story. You are free to criticize or critique the events or what is happening in the story. Now, the last one here, class, is what we call the Marxist Criticism, being Karl Marx as the founder. Okay. Now, Marxism here refers to the clash between the rich and the poor, or between economic classes and implications of capitalist system, such as the continuing conflicts between the working class and the elite. So there are also literary pieces that discusses how the poor classes are being oppressed by the elite classes. Okay? Social class as represented in the work, social class of the writer or creator, social class of the characters, conflicts and interactions between economic classes. Okay. Now, as a critic writer, you are going to put your own opinion, or you have to critique the text in a Marxist perspective or in a Marxist literary criticism. Now, let us read a sample here. The imbalanced societal power play is evident in the short story in the form of the treatment of the characters based on their class. That is page 37. This is most easily evident in the conversation between Alfredo and his fiancée Esperanza about Calixta, their note carrier who grew up, and his new love Julia, and Calixta in her live-in partner. Calixta was so ungrateful to her master for doing such an act. Alfredo does not have to worry about his unfaithfulness because he is rich, but Calixta is responsible not only about what her family might think of her, but also from the members of her master's family. So, you can be able to read here in this following sample critic paper that on how Calixta is being oppressed by his master, okay? And because his master is rich, he does not worry about anything for example, is his unfaithfulness because he is rich. However, Calixta is not. Therefore, it is okay to be unfaithful because he thinks that he is rich. But for Calixta, she does not belong to a rich family. Therefore, she have to do all the work. She has to be obedient to her master. Okay, so that is the sample critic here that we have read according to the Marxist literary criticism. So that is how you are going to critique. Or just a short critic, not just even in a short paragraph or even in a single paragraph can do the thing at least. As long as all your ideas are being put into one place. Now, this is how you are going to structure your reaction paper and critique paper. First, of course, there should be an introduction, the basic details, the main assessment of the material. Main assessment, which is yan. Plot summary. Okay, you have to identify the gist or the plot, the main idea, the simple description of the artwork or the thing that you are reviewing. The third one is analysis or interpretation. discussion and analysis of the work, you may employ the critical approach here. This is now the time that you are going to employ the critical approach in your analysis and interpretation, whether you are going to use the formalist, the feminist, or the Marxist approach, or the reader response approach. Ayan. So it is best to ask the following questions during this part. Okay. So kindly read the following here. I hope that you have understood. To summarize, I have discussed to you the three kinds of writing reviews, which are reaction, review writing, and the critic paper writing. And you can write these papers through the following critical approaches, or using the following critical approaches, which are, the first one is the formalist approach, in which you focus on the content, okay, on the structure of the literary piece itself. The second one is the feminist criticism, which is focusing on the empowerment of women. And the third one is the what do you call that one? The third one is the reader response criticism, in which you as the reader are the main meaning maker. Okay, meaning maker ang tawag natin doon, or ang term natin doon, of the literary piece, because you yourself, or the literary piece, does not have meaning unless you make meaning out of it. And the fourth one is the Marxist criticism, in which there is a struggle of the working classes because of the oppression among the elite classes, or from the elite classes. Okay, so that is how you are going to write. Now, it is not just literary pieces that you are going to critique. Okay, you can critique events, you can critique situations, you can critique artworks, you can critique how the media deliberates their information. Okay, pag nag-news yung anchor, paano kaya siya mag-news? Relevant ba yung based on facts ba? Okay, the presidents. Okay, how do you write reviews, or how do you critique their views and opinions while they were in the interview, right? So yun, madami kayong pwedeng i-review, not just literary pieces. So that is it for now. I thank you for listening. I hope you have understood the lesson today. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to approach me. Have a good day.